Hi, I'm Carl with the Minor Chord Music Outfitters in Littleton, Massachusetts, here with another video in our series on how to shop for an acoustic guitar. Today we're going to talk about nylon string guitars versus steel string guitars. And there's quite a difference between them, not just in the kind of strings that are on the guitar, but in the very construction of them. They're quite different instruments. So let's get right into it. The instrument I'm holding here is a Spanish-made classical style nylon guitar. Most nylon string guitars are in this classical design. It's been around for, I don't know, over 100 years. There are some sort of newer designs, hybrid or crossover designs, but we're going to be talking mostly here about the classical style. So the strings, now don't be fooled, these are all nylon strings. The three that look like metal are actually nylon in the core. They're just wrapped with metal to make them heavier, and that makes them play the heavier bass notes, the lower bass notes. So obviously the nylon string guitar has nylon strings, right? Okay, but there are a couple other differences. First of all, let's look at the neck. The neck here is very wide. Most full-size nylon string classicals have a neck that's 2 inches wide at the nut, and the fingerboard is completely flat here. You could lay a straight edge across there and it wouldn't rock at all. The reason is that most classical guitar literature, most classical guitar music is about the trickiest, most difficult finger style stuff that you could imagine. And so the classical player wants lots of room across the fingerboard to get their fingers moving in all the different ways that they have to move. So that's why the wide neck. For some people, that's too wide, right? Especially for a younger player, a 2-inch wide fingerboard is quite wide. So you want to keep that into account as you're shopping. Finally, and not very obvious, but if you were to look inside this guitar with a mirror and a flashlight, you would find that the construction of the instrument, and especially the bracing for the top and the construction of the neck joint here, are very delicate. So the classical guitar with its nylon strings doesn't exert as much tension on the top, and therefore they can get away, builders can get away with a much more delicate construction. You get much more delicate sound out of that. But on the other hand, if you were to put steel strings on this guitar, it would literally pull itself apart. So those are the principal differences. Principally designed, as I said, for playing the classical style musical literature. Let's look at the steel string. All right, so here we have a steel string guitar. It's a Taylor 114E, and it has a number of differences from the classical nylon string I just showed you. First, obviously, are the strings. In this case, we have steel strings. Like the nylon string, the lower ones, the bass strings, are wrapped. In this case, the steel is wrapped with bronze, and that makes them heavier, so they play the lower notes more easily. So steel strings, as you can imagine, exert a lot more tension on the guitar than nylon strings do, and we'll see some of the results of that in the construction in a moment. For the moment, though, let's look at the neck. So here we have the neck. Immediately, you notice it's a lot narrower than the classical nylon string. The classical nylon string traditionally is about 2 inches. This particular guitar is 1 11/16 inches. That's more than 1/4 of an inch smaller. 1/4 of an inch may not feel like much or seem like much, but once you have it in your hands, it feels completely different. The other difference is that the fretboard is actually curved. It's radiused is the technical term. If I were to put a straight edge on this, it would rock back and forth quite a bit. The combination of those two things, the narrower neck and the radiused fretboard, make it much easier for me to get my hand around this neck. On the other hand, if I'm playing very intricate kind of material, the strings are a lot closer together, so it's a lot harder for me to play very complex multi-line fingerstyle material such as you'd have with a classical piece. So every tool for its purpose, I suppose. Let's look at the other end of the guitar, and because of all the tension of these steel strings, if I were to look inside this guitar, I would find much sturdier bracing. So it's not quite so delicate inside, not larger braces, stiffer braces, and particularly a much stronger neck joint rather here, okay? Because again, these steel strings are pulling the neck over very strongly, and we need a strong neck joint to hold it straight. Most steel string guitars also have a bolt that runs down the back of the neck called a truss rod, and it pulls the neck in the opposite direction, trying to balance the tension of those strings. By the way, that's an element of a steel string guitar that takes constant attention as the seasons change. All right, so those are the two major styles of guitar, the nylon string and the steel string. They're both, nothing right or wrong here. They're just different instruments for different styles of playing and different kinds of sounds you might want. Best way to judge that is to come on in and we'll show you guitars in your price range from both categories, and you can decide what fits you best and what best matches your musical styles and wishes and the sound you want to hear. So come on in, and thank you for watching.